All right, so this week we are talking about chapter 22 in the Western Heritage book. We've made it through the Unit 1 chapter test, Unit 1 test, and have now moved into nation states, which will be leading to World War I as we look at some of the things that have gone on during this time period. One of the big things that I want you to take away, or one of the themes that I want you to make sure that you look for in this week's reading, is really a rise of conservative regimes. Thus far, we've seen a lot of liberal regimes, really some ideas that are taking off, that are progressive, and people are really seeing that fervor. At this point, 1860, we really start to see a lot of conservative regimes start to take over throughout Europe. So be aware of that as you continue to look through or read this chapter. I want you to take specific time or take some time to look specifically at the Crimean War. It gives you two different reasons or factors for the Crimean War. However, in my mind and the way that I see it, is really that Russia is not happy. They feel like they're slighted in one sense. Because of that, they send protectors to watch over their Orthodox Catholics, and that really starts the Crimean War, which I think it comes down to Russia really not being happy with some of the things that are going on. Okay, and so as you look at the Crimean War, I would take a look at that and this idea of Russia not being happy. Yeah, we see several different countries who are being unified. Italy, Germany, who are starting to unify into nation states. Okay. Really what this does is it shows us the beginning of lines being drawn for World War I. I mean, these lines are going to be drawn, which is going to create these nation states going to war later on that we'll see. But I want you to really take a look at some of the unification of some of these nation states and how we can start to see some of the problems that are going to happen the causes of World War I that we'll see later on in the next couple of chapters. Nation states. The building of nation states leads to citizen participation. We see a lot of monarchies and parliamentary governments that are seeing that nationalism is a big deal, and they start to turn, instead of trying to hold 100% control over these people, they're starting to give more citizen participation because they see that if they do that raises nationalism, which then creates, as we've seen, really a lot of people who create loyalty to their country and their nation. And that's going to help people in the long term, especially when we go to war. I mean, you can see right now with the Olympics, people get behind their countries. Think of that tenfold as people start to go to war and they're defending their countries, and the propaganda that can come out of that as people try to really figure out what they believe and who they're going to fight for, and as they try to create this sense of nationalism. One of the ways that they do that is through citizen participation. We have those lines being drawn, and then we have the unity of nations, which is now being based on culture, language, and then historic bonds. Okay, those three factors is what leads to the unity in these nations, or the loyalty rather, in these nations. And when you can have that, and you and the person next to you who are fighting against this other, really the us versus them mentality, you can have this strong bond because you have these bonds that have already been built by culture, language, and history. And so take a look at those themes this week as you read through. These are going to be some of the things that we look at in the supplementary reading this week. Try to find ways that you can connect them to themes that we see today in our culture and in the world. I think it's an excellent way to be able to look at some of this, especially with the Olympics and some of the nationalistic ideas that we see on that. I've seen a lot of those things come out as you've talked about things in your discussions over the past few weeks and in the test, that you all find really these connections that are in more contemporary ideas as well. And that's really the idea of studying history, is trying to find those connections and how they connect, the historical themes and concepts connect to a broader sense of a contemporary idea. So hopefully you can see that. Hopefully you can find ways to be able to connect those things as you read through chapter 22. This really, although we have some war and the unification, really is a lull as we hit into moving into World War One. So hopefully you'll see that. If you have any questions, please email me or try to reach me however you can. You can stop by my office, which is still Taylor 205, for another couple of weeks until I move down to the bottom of Taylor in the foundation office. So if you need anything, please email me. We'll talk to you later. Have a great week.